So what we're doing, Changeling and Lower Decks, right?
Indeed.
Okay, cool.
I only watched the one of Changeling, but
I went ahead and watched all three,
that is a
and
that is a sigh of a man that did not want to do that.
your impression of one is correct.
Okay, cool.
Let's just say that. Episode 452 of the TV Dudes, recorded September 13th, 2023. The Changeling. This week, Randy and Nick are talking about Apple Plus's The Changeling and the return of Lower Decks on Paramount Plus. Before we get to that, I'm Randy.
And I'm Nick, god of whatever.
We're the TV
Let
Dudes.
me cut that string along your wrist, Randy.
That is how much enthusiasm should be given to remembering The Changeling, another weird, dark, forgettable show on Apple Plus.
Man, Apple Plus has 2 modes.
They have 2 modes, right?
they,
What's weird is usually there's an indicator that it's going to be one of their weird ones, but because it's British.
yeah.
This is American
Mm-hmm.
and weird and dark and slow. And I know some people like these, but
Do you think that if they have a show that's middle of the road, they just disown it and go and then put it on Amazon Prime instead?
I think it's possible. It's not terrible. I can see but man, did I not enjoy watching it. Which is the opposite of what I had watching Lower Decks. I love Lower Decks, and that came back really strong. So yeah. So before we get to all of that, though, let's talk TV Diaries.
The Diaries of the Television Dudes. Brought to you by only the finest cocaine wine.
I'll start since I've been gone for at least a week.
Please
Was I
do.
gone for 2 weeks? I don't know if I was gone for 2 weeks. I think I just missed one episode.
I think you.
Um,
I forget. You missed one.
I missed
No,
I missed two, but not in a row.
not in a row. Yeah, you missed one, and then you were
Yeah.
on for I forget what we talked about that
Yes,
week.
the year so far, our
The
top
year
10 of
so
the year.
far, and then
Actually, what we talked about was my TV diaries for like an hour, which won't happen this time. I didn't watch as much TV this time. And then I missed Escape from Bloodkeeper. I actually, believe it or not, have not had a chance to listen to last week's episode. So I don't know where you guys land on this, but just as a quick, since it was a patron
sure.
episode, I did
Yeah.
watch some of that.
What was your impression of it?
And what I discovered is that I don't like watching other people play D&D.
Wow, we I told Les that I'm like, I don't think Randy likes watching people play D&D.
I know some people really dig
I was
it.
like,
I don't.
Randy doesn't like when you just actually break down the story of it and actually put production and the vox machina of this. I don't know if he's gonna want to watch the.
People love Critical Role, and God bless, I'm glad they do. But man, I do not. I tried watching Critical Role, which is arguably the best of them, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't like watching other people play D&D. And Escape from the Bloodkeeper was something similar. It's like, man, I know a lot of these people from like sketches that I've seen online. They're all hilarious people.
What was it? Dimension
20. Yeah.
They're a bunch of College Humor guys. I recognize them from
Yeah.
a bunch of College Humor sketches.
So there were a ton of people, and they're all like, "Oh, I know you. You're funny. I like you." And there was nothing like they're running like a villain campaign, which whatever. It seems like they're all like going all in on it. But I'm like, man, I think all you're doing is setting up unrealistic expectations for your actual D&D DMs who are not going to play at this professional voice actor level. And
Yeah,
I did not enjoy it. I watched about half an episode and was like, "Oh,
my
nope,
suggestion
not
is
for
that
me."
if you're into it at all, try out the clips. Like there's plenty of videos, YouTube videos, break down the
Yeah.
episodes into 25-minute. Like here's the highlights. Watch a highlight video.
Are there any that break it down into say 2 minutes?
I don't think
'Cause
that's one gag.
that's about the attention span I have for something like Escape from the Bloodkeep. It's just not my thing, man. It's well done. Glad people like it. Not for me. So I did a lot of rewatching the last couple weeks. Since the TV thing has slowed a bit, and I think is slowing to a trickle. We're watching the tap run out on the strike stuff.
I saw one article saying that some programs like 911 and what was it, Lone Star or
Yeah,
Long
yeah,
Star, and a lot of
yeah.
some of these scripted like network dramas are about to hit a point of no, like, if they're gonna go into production and be ready for the spring lineup,
Right.
uh, they gotta go now, and
Yeah.
that's, I don't know, man.
It's looking rough, man. I don't know what's gonna happen.
2024 is gonna be an interesting year of TV.
It may be, or
Like,
there may just
2023 was the year of what did COVID fuck up?
yeah, yeah,
And honestly, 2023 was like, wow, I mean, even with COVID, it was a pretty good year for TV. I mean,
yeah,
obviously some
sure,
shows got batted around a little, but most people got their like could get their feet. I guess they got their feet underneath them at a certain point of
yeah,
production because they could. I guess with COVID, you can change how production and
right.
because with the writers, you just shut down.
Yeah. Well, and then the actors. Like, here's the
Yeah,
thing: or not Reno 911, 911, Austin or whatever.
yeah.
They could shoot that show without writers, and it wouldn't make an appreciable difference. I mean, that show is fucking ridiculous, and they could have Rob Lowe improving his own lines, and it would be much the same. But without writers and actors, yeah, y'all are
Yeah, I
screwed.
feel you're stuck.
So I rewatched the rest of Year of the Worst. I burned through season 5, really enjoyed that. I have not watched that since I first watched it.
That's the final season, rather, first 5 season of that.
Yep, yep. Very satisfying rewatch, and a very quick rewatch. Because they're 10 to 13 episode seasons.
Mhm.
Um,
Man, say
I
what you want
watched 2
about the
episodes.
streaming model, though, I am glad that things have gone to 10 to 13, like
Me too, all about it. I don't like. I've never wanted 22 episode seasons of anything.
no, that's a
Um,
lot of episodes in a year. That is
yeah. Watched Harley Quinn episodes 8 and 9.
Oh, okay.
Still really enjoying
So
that.
you're fully caught up with, Potato Clone?
I'm fully caught up with Potato Clone. I saw the finale of My vs Superman, which I'm bummed I didn't get to talk about with you guys last week, but that was really, really good. Watched the finale. Yeah, a lot of stuff ended last week. I watched the finale of What We Do in the Shadows, which I thought ended really strong. I watched the last 2 episodes of Minx. Minx also ended really strong, although it's good, but I was talking about less with a little bit on this on text. Like, man, good finale. Kind of a shame they left it on a bit of a cliffhanger because I don't think there's any way the show gets season 3.
Honestly, ironically
Because
enough, I watched the finale of Minx.
yeah, it was good, right?
Yeah, I honestly, it also brings up one of those points, though, of why did I don't think the show wants me to be this sympathetic with Doug.
Yeah, and I'm like, no, Doug and Connie. I'm like, I'm with them.
Well, I'm like,
Like,
you can't be mad at you immediately assume Doug's gonna let you down and don't bring him in on the
yeah,
coup,
right,
and you're gonna be mad at him later of like, well, you weren't gonna support like they done previous episodes of like, why you have look, Doug's kind of a sketchy dude, and he might not do the
yeah,
right thing, but you
right,
have to give him the shot and then let
yeah,
him disappoint you for him to be mad. Otherwise, this is unreasonable.
yeah, yep,
Because he's come through
yep,
before. Like
yeah. He has.
so you
Well,
I
the
don't know.
thing is, there's an interesting season 3 in Doug and Connie versus the Scrappy Bottom Dollar guys, and we're never gonna see it because the only reason season 2 happened is because HBO had already paid for
Oh,
most of it,
I'm pretty sure we're done,
and
which is a
so
shame
Stars
because
was like,
there's a lot.
well, I mean, they filmed all this not knowing they weren't on HBO anymore.
Yeah,
So of course they did it this way. I mean, there's
yeah.
nobody did anything wrong, but yeah, like there's no way in hell the stars align and
Especially
they
with
get
Doug and what's his secretary's name? Tammy?
yeah,
Uh, because
no,
she comes in,
Tina,
Tina, she's butthurt of like, hey, I'm president of the. Oh yeah, good for you. Wow.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
I can you ever be happy for Doug and on one level ever? Like,
yeah,
no, I get that
yeah,
you just got butthurt because the money woman was racist to you in the fucking and made a whole special like not our kind of woman. That sucks. Doug was not in that room. Why are you mad
right,
at him?
yeah, yeah,
And again, it's one of those things of I can hear everyone yelling at me. Like I know I'm not supposed to be sympathizing with Doug in the feminist Minx show. I understand
yeah.
that I'm recognizing
But
that as the problem.
if you don't want me to sympathize with Doug, don't cast Jake Johnson
Yes,
because man, he's so
I'm
likable. He's so much
pretty
fun.
sure
I'm
I'm
like,
supposed to
yeah,
like him, but
I think so too. I watched the finale of the After Party, which I'm sure y'all talked about last week.
yes. What'd you think though?
Really enjoyed. Oh, I loved it. Some predictions did not come true. Nothing to do with the
I
armor.
know, man,
Um,
it was another innocuous thing. It was the whiskey, it was the whiskey glass, and I was like,
whiskey glass.
fuck. Was the just
Yep.
I bet you the armor and the katana were just a fucking red herring type
Yeah. Yeah.
mislead.
But I thought they did a great job with it. I thought it was another
Would you
great
be
season of
interested in
TV.
seeing a season 3 where it's Daniel Radcliffe gets murdered as and it's the season 3 is a meta murder
Yes.
on the first
Yes, I would.
yeah,
Yes, absolutely I
like
would.
I'm when they lead into that at the final minutes, I'm like, I'm kind
Yep.
of down for this.
Yeah. Yeah, if their third season is to do a murder mystery on the set of her movie,
Yes.
yeah, all in, all in. I'm not sure right now. I'm not sure anything's getting another season of anything. So
Right.
I'm just like, yep, no,
Which is why I'm glad they didn't cliffhanger it like that. I'm like,
no, it's an ending. Yeah,
they ended it and there was like they're like it's kind of a tease of like here's the idea but we're not going to lead into it. No
right,
one's going to die.
right.
So
It's not like Only Murder season 2 where they ended with the murder
oh,
of Paul Rudd.
yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Speaking of which, I did watch Only Murders in the Building, episode 6 and 7. Continue to really enjoy that. This latest episode, I don't know if you caught up this week's.
Uh I
Some great guest
again,
stars.
I think I skipped around with less.
Okay.
I watched the point where Short's character is back on the investigation since the his like musical is back on. Like so now
Right,
he's
right.
back with the it felt a little weird of like Selena Gomez is now mad at them both too for not hanging out. Like it
Their split of them is a little weird, but
if
but I
again it
but
feels
it's
kind of like what I was complaining with Minx of like their relationship feels like it like Jesus, have you ever been like are you getting better friends or are you always back and forth kind of like the same level of we're almost friends.
right,
It's
right.
season 3. It's weird that you all feel like you could break up at any minute.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. They should be taking a victory lap at this point. 'Cause I think Steve Martin said like he might just retire after this. I'm like, you guys should be. This should be more fun at this point. It's a little bit dire, a little bit dark.
Yeah.
Um, I watched Ahsoka. I continue to watch Ahsoka. Fourth episode was actually the best one they've done so far.
Uh-huh.
It had a really cool lightsaber fight.
How has the Anakin stuff come off?
It's interesting. I think a lot of people really liked it. I didn't. I was like, it's okay. I don't have any interest in seeing Ahsoka go back to her past.
Well,
I'm
you because I was talking with Les with this, but he hasn't watched a lot of the other. I've watched the Clone Wars stuff
yeah,
and the Rebel stuff like you
yeah,
have.
yeah,
And I've
yeah.
always been the Anakin in those shows is so starkly different than the prequel Anakin.
It is, yeah, and it's kind of fun letting Hayden Christensen get to play that more fun
So
Anakin.
he gets to kind of his take on that version. That's kind of
A,
neat.
a little bit, but honestly, it still didn't feel like he got to play the really interesting Anakin here. It was not my favorite part of the show.
Sure.
My favorite part of the show is everything having to do with Hera. Like I love Elizabeth Winstead, Mary Elizabeth Winstead playing Hera.
It's pretty good casting, honestly.
The other thing that's bugging me about Ahsoka that is reminiscent of things that bug me about some of the Mandalorian and some of
Andor?
Andor, I guess. Andor, it's the pacing. Like this feels like they looked at Andor and went, "Oh, people like slow Star Wars." I'm like, "No, I fucking don't."
Mhm.
But everybody else did. So it's slow as shit, and that bothers me. We're 5 episodes in, and they're just now jumping to find Ezra, and I'm like, guys, we should be 3 episodes into this other galaxy by now.
Yeah, especially since we introduced it in Ep 1.
Like it's moving too slow. And I want to know the story of Ray Stevenson's character, and I feel like everybody's guessing at it first. I'm like, just tell me the story. This is the opposite of Mike Schur plotting. But I think the other thing that's a big problem for me is this the Galactic Republic as this bumbling bureaucratic organization that doesn't know what to do. I'm like, I don't know if you guys are just setting up the First Order and that's how they came about because the Republic sucks so much. But I didn't watch the Star Wars movies thinking, man, when the rebels beat the Empire, they're going to be a bunch of bureaucratic dicks. I don't like that. And I know that they're trying to keep the heroes as like the independent rebels and that kind of thing that's something to struggle against. But like having Hera basically take the ghost, which I love seeing the ghost in live action, and go fly to help her friend, and then the fleet comes after her, not to help her, but to chide her and to remove her from command. And I'm like, you guys remember that like a couple months ago, you were making everybody generals and
Yeah.
fighting a galactic empire and you shouldn't have won, right? Like You should not be a bureaucracy at this point.
Well, that's what I always thought was interesting about that time of what could be interesting about that time period was that you have a bunch of loose cannons that you upgraded to positions of power and leadership they probably would never have had in a regular society. But because
Right.
we're fighting in a galactic empire, you got to use the tools you got. And so when
Yep.
we win though, now all the people that are in military power are the go-tos for putting in political power. Like any
Right.
invade like I don't want to say invading force, but yeah, kind of with the
Right.
Republic.
Right.
And
Right.
so you have a bunch of like the Han Solo types that don't really fit with a bureaucratic order type thing. And so either they kind of have to go against character or they push up against this new, government.
Well, my issue is this government doesn't feel like they're too young to be this bureaucratic and hidebound. They should still be the like when someone who is your war hero comes to you and says, "Hey, one of the soldiers we lost, along with one of the most dangerous Imperial combatants, are in another galaxy." It's like it's not the weirdest thing you've heard. She's like, "I want to take my one ship and go investigate." They shouldn't be like, "We can't spare your one ship." Yes, you fucking can. Like that is
Well,
ridiculous.
it's a
And
contradictory thing too because Mandalorian makes it seem like the Republic is too young, like they're trying to get to the outer rim, like they're trying to consolidate.
yeah, yeah,
Like, okay, well,
yeah.
are they an all-powerful bureaucracy or are they not? Are they a fledgling new
And,
government?
and that's my issue. They're all powerful when they're setting down rules for the good guys, but they're the fucking Keystone Cops when trying to stop the Empire. And I'm
Okay,
like, you cannot have it both
yeah,
ways.
yeah, they're trying to have their cake and eat it too
So
with their rebel alliance.
yeah, and I feel like especially this one, like Mon Mothma got sold to us in Andor as this like scheming, very dangerous, very smart woman. And here she's the one telling Syndulla, like, no, we're gonna take her commission. I'm like, this is not the same character.
Yeah,
And you're undercutting a perfectly good character. So that kind of thing drives me crazy. I blame that. I mean, I love Dave Filoni and everything he's done on Star Wars, but this seems to be one of his things. And I do feel like it is the continuity cop in him. He is trying to figure out how did the First Order rise to prominence in 20 years if the Republic was all competent? And he's like, well, the obvious answer is they aren't. And I'm like, find a less obvious
yeah, maybe
answer.
find. I mean, the easiest answer may not be the most fun one,
Right. Yeah. And it bugs me because I like a lot of it, but there's
I
definitely
mean,
that one
honestly, why
aspect I'm
not
like,
make them too effective and then a bunch of
yeah,
criminal organizations get together and give power to the First Order they wouldn't
right.
normally give because the Republic
The
is
Republic is keeping everybody safe. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
there.
And nobody's on the death sticks. So I also watched this week the final episode of Lioness, which I don't know if y'all have kept up with,
I
but
have not.
it's fantastic. It's a really, really good show and had a very satisfying finale. I can't imagine them doing a season two. Like this feels like a one season and done.
Sure.
But it's really good. I think Taylor Sheridan basically may be able to do no wrong with me. I've discovered that I like everything he does, and I'm probably going to go watch 1923 in Yellowstone.
Boy knows story structure. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, he really does, and his writing, moment to moment writing, is really good. So it was excellent. One of my favorite things I've watched this year. I watched Lower Decks, of course. After watching Lower Decks, I decided to go ahead and watch Voyager because I've never watched most of it.
Oh, really?
No, I've not watched most of Voyager or most of the Star Trek Beyond. I mean, I just watched Deep Space Nine this year for the first time. So I watched Voyager, and I was like, I watched the 2 episode pilot, and I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen this show. And I've made so much fun of this show, and I've seen it from memes, like I know the characters, but I'm like, did I watch one
I was
episode
gonna
of
like you
this
gotta
at
know
one point?
Tuvok.
And did all my friends hate it? And they told me about it, and then I hate it because of that. Because I don't. I watched that pilot, and I'm like, man, I have never seen any of these scenes. I definitely have not seen the show, and I watched 5 episodes of it, and I think once Lower Decks kind of primed me to enjoy. Oh, right, it's a little weird.
Oh man, the Lower Decks episode is based up like oh no, it's Voyager's deepest cuts, and it is
Oh, they did go
and
in the
it's like
deepest cuts,
what
like
the fuck happened on Voyager?
yeah. And so I watched it and I'm like, you know what? This is a pretty solid show. Like it's got a good cast. The tension between the Maquis and the Enterprise and the Federation crew goes away a little quickly. Like even 5 episodes in, they're already starting to merge a little too much. And I'm like, I wish this was a little more contentious.
Sure.
And I also wish that the out in the Federation, out in deep space was a little weirder because they they're doing weird holodeck shit. In the very first episode, they go to a planet with space farmers, some holographic space farmers, and I'm like, they're very much in next gen mode.
Sure.
Like it is not Deep Space Nine. It is not the darker, more realistic Voyager that I would have enjoyed. But Neelix gets holographic lungs in like the fourth episode. They're doing weird shit. Uh, but the fifth episode has like them do a wormhole and talk to a Romulan, and I'm like, oh, this is early that they actually are talking to the Alpha Quadrant. That's kind of cool. And the twist on that one that he is from 20 years in the past, so they can't actually transport to him because they'd all be going to the past. Is like, oh, that is a pretty good twist. And then the twist on the twist that he dies and doesn't ever get their messages to. I'm like, oh, you guys, that's mean.
Yeah, that
So
sucks.
I was like, okay, so there's a little bit here. There's and I really like Janeway. I think she's a fantastic captain. I think her like she's the perfect person for this because she's like doesn't want to be doing all this. She's pissed off half the time, but she basically is someone who's like, well, let's get this done, and is not bound by regulations the way someone like Picard might have been. And she's she's the perfect captain for this. And so I'm really liking her. I'm really liking everybody in this cast. Even Neelix, they're trying to make Quark happen again. It's not quite working for me, but he's not as terrible as I thought he was. So yeah, my 90s brain or whatever that hated Voyager, I think based this on a couple friends telling me they hated it.
Sure.
And that was it.
Built up an alternate narrative in your head.
It's not going to be like Deep Space Nine where I just fall deeper and deeper in love with it. But I think I am going to enjoy watching it. So I'm going to probably keep going through that. And then I started on Schitt's Creek again, which I watched. I think season and a half of, and never quite plugged into.
Okay.
But everybody tells me how good it gets, and it's one of the best sitcoms. They put it there with like Parks and Rec,
I've also heard
and
that,
Good
but I've
Place
not
and all
watched it.
that. So I watched the first 13 episodes. The cast is very likable. It's all good. The premise doesn't do much for me. Rich folks wind up in a small town that they lose everything, and
Yeah.
it's like rich city folks in a small town. I've got no appreciation for small town living, with the exception of Letterkenny. So the like salt of the earth small town people not doing much for me. Chris Elliott's hilarious as always. The cast is really good, and there are moments in season one that cracked me up. But it is very much sort of uncomfortable comedy. People being mean to each other, people being awkward, and while I like that sometimes with like say Seinfeld or Always Sunny, uh, it's not quite hooking me. I'm going to keep watching this time. I'm going to go ahead and finish it out. But so far, I believe I may be an outlier in Schitt's Creek of like, oh no, it's fine.
Sure.
Um, and then yeah, I think that's all that I watched other than no more for like Changeling, and Lower Decks. What about you? What'd you watch this week?
I watched Al Sadiq, some stand up from him. I forget his special I watched on Paramount, but I also watched some other stuff on him on YouTube.
Mhm.
He's a comedian that's spent 6 years in prison on a 15-year drug charge
Oh
that he
shit.
for sure did. Like, he's like, "Yep, I did call."
Yeah, it's a drug charge. Who gives a shit?
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
the stories he tells about prison and his life growing up as a drug, like, he tells a story about how he held a grudge against this guy that when he was dealing, this guy punched him out and stole, like, his drugs, I think, and knocked his eye out of
Hmm.
his socket. Like, it really fucked him up. So, 2 years later, he's like, 16 or something, and he pulls over with his friend like, "Hey, I think that guy's at that bus stop," and he pulls over and he shoots that guy 3 times. And I
Oh
was like, are you admit," and he even goes like, "So, I can tell you the names so that you can look it up and review. I can't tell you the street because I don't know the statute of limitations on some of these crimes." And I was
wow.
like, "Jesus Christ, did you just casually admit to a murder?" Well, no, because later, like, 'cause he's gonna go on further in the story. So 3 years later, I'm 19, I got picked up, put in prison, not for that, for another thing. And I see this guy and I'm like, "Holy shit, it's the same guy." He's in prison with me. I was like, "What's your name? Hey, what's your name?" He's like, "I'm Quincy." It's like, "That's motherfucker's Quincy." And I bust his head open with, and then
Oh
it's like,
man.
and then last year I'm in Walmart and the whole audience is like, "Jesus, let it go." Like, he's, kind of intense, but he's real good timing on it. And the stories are very specific, and like he talks about how he planned fully formulated a plan on how to kill a guard and why, like the inciting.
This is comedy?
Yeah, it's pretty.
Because it sounds fucking. This sounds kind of like what I watched with the fucking Changeling, man. This is dark as
It's
shit.
dark as shit, and it's weird because he's telling it's the same cadence, it's the same structure as any other joke any other comedian would tell. It's just that the subject matter
Mhm.
is very like, but he treats it, you know, like he's telling the story of walking down the street, only he's walking down the cell block. And I don't know, I
Huh.
found it very interesting and intriguing. The special I watched, he actually went back to the prison he spent his bit in and talked to the prisoners there and did a stand-up special for the prisoners, which I thought was pretty neat.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, also I watched Les showed me Rocket Jump and their short, like they had a TV show where they made shorts. Uh
yeah.
they also made like a gamer show, I forget what it was called. I think it was actually no, Rocket Jump is the name of the show or is it no, it's the name of the production company is
It's like
Rocket
a
Jump.
studio. Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
studio. And you can tell like, "Hi, why haven't I heard of Rocket Jump?" Oh, well, they make shorts and no one like as me and Les have someone who's been trying to create like put go into short festivals for our episodes of
Mhm.
Henshin. No one gives a shit
Yeah,
about shorts at all.
yeah. It's a tough sell.
It's a tough sell. And I thought it was interesting because they show the process of making the short in the episode, and then at the end they show the episode. But honestly,
Okay,
the short is named High Plains Drifter, and one of the
okay.
central jokes is they were gonna get one of the horses to drift, and the stunt guys couldn't figure out how to do it. So they dropped that joke, and they dropped that joke, and the rest of it is a Fast and the Furious knockoff, but with Wild West horses, right? And I was
Mhm,
like,
mhm.
but it's called High Plains Drifter. You gotta like, I don't care if you gotta do it in After Effects, figure out that in my mind, I don't care if it looks horrible. You need the joke. But yeah, it was pretty good. I would at least give that short a watch. I didn't end up
Okay,
watching,
alright.
but also I feel like America the movie stole their joke structure for their Paul Revere scene because they
Okay,
do a
alright,
Fast and the
yeah.
Furious thing, and I was
Yeah,
like,
that's right.
and I'm like,
Oh,
oh
man, I
shit, and they
forgot that.
drift the horses. Those motherfuckers stole your idea, but did it right. I watched Dread on Netflix. Just a rewatch of
You've
Dread.
seen it yeah, I was gonna say you've seen it before, right?
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah. This has been my like fourth, fifth time seeing it. I really like that movie.
yeah.
Uh, and I feel like I it was interesting to watch it because me and Les watched a bunch of propaganda this week.
Yeah. Did y'all do are you doing Patreon on
Hmm.
Propaganda? Or did you
Yeah.
just okay, alright.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
recorded a Patreon on propaganda, so I'll leave most of that on my TV diaries, like Blue Bloods,
Alright.
Chicago PD, some episodes of SVU, The Rookie. We even talk about Brooklyn
Man.
Nine-Nine for a minute about their
Yeah,
how they handle political issues and what their implicit or otherwise biases might be. But
right.
yeah, obviously, if you include Brooklyn Nine-Nine, that's the most progressive cop show.
Oh, for sure,
But
yeah.
if you're talking
I
about
mean,
straight up propaganda,
s
I'm telling you, Randy, SVU is the most progressive one, which is
I mean, I sort of believe that.
yeah,
It's just
which is
it's
not
just
really
just
of say a
it's just
praise of
it's distressing.
SVU as much as it is a condemnation of
Right, if everything
of
else,
everything else.
I was gonna say, you're not complimenting them on that.
Man, I would tell you to watch an episode of Blue Bloods because it really is fascinating to see it from the other side of who you think of
Yeah,
as bad guys and good guys and how the scene is just
yeah,
flipped. But it would I
yeah.
know you, Randy, it would you would throw your TV out the window.
Yeah, I think it would enrage me.
I know you don't want to be mad at Tom Selleck's mustache, and you're gonna be.
I definitely don't. I love the mustache, and I would like
Who
it to be
doesn't love that
continue to be a
mustache?
it should continue to be a friend to humanity.
It should be. The mustache should not him himself, whatever. He can just do whatever he wants politically, but I feel like the mustache
Yeah.
should be neutral.
Yes, agreed. Agreed.
The thin blue
Uh
line, almost, but not the mustache. That's a thick, furry line. Me and Les watched some episodes of Killing It, season 2. Uh,
yeah, I'm curious because I that has been sitting in my I liked but didn't love it, and I'm like, I'm probably gonna get this at some point.
So, another one of, like, we just came off of watching Minx, and his ex-wife in this one is still treating him like a fuck up, and, like,
Okay, yeah.
"Well, I didn't tell you that, I'm carrying a" because she comes up pregnant after, like, 5 months
Okay.
of not really like and, like, "Oh, I'm a surrogate for, family." And I was like, "That never came up on a fucking video call or
Right, yeah.
this" I'm like, "Look, I don't know what the right conversation to have here is. I know that it was supposed to take place 5 months ago. Like, this should not be the way he finds out about it, and, she
Right,
says she needs
yeah.
the money because she can't count on him, and I'm like, "He's starting his
Mhm,
business."
yeah. But his business, in fairness, his business is snake killing.
No, his business is now the palmetto berries, he's fully into it.
Oh, okay,
There's no
alright, okay,
snake
good.
killing in, which is
Oh,
another weird thing that's kind of the premise of killing it in this
so
first
wait,
season.
there's no snake killing in
Nope.
killing it?
Mm-mm.
That's weird.
Yeah,
That's too weird. That's like if Brooklyn Nine-Nine was all of a sudden about them being librarians, which, by the way,
I'd
they
watch
should have
though.
done instead of canceling the show. I would've watched it,
Right.
but it is a little weird.
Well, yeah, that's what me and Les were kinda like, "Huh, that's interesting that they kinda premise switch that," but it's not like they were killing snakes all the time in the season 1. There was a lot of other stuff going on, and this one is more about how the struggles with the palmetto berries and, his business there. There's a great joke about there's snails that are gonna be like, there's a snail inspector, and
Okay,
he keeps coming back for months or whatever and his story just keeps getting darker and darker.
okay.
He brings in a drug sniffing, or a snail sniffing dog. The dog eats one of the snails, and they're super toxic. He's like, "Well, hopefully it'll be fine." And then 2 weeks, like a week later, he comes back. The dog's dead. The dog was able to sniff out suicidal ideation, so it was kind of helping me out. And I'm really
Oh my god, that's so dark.
it was I needed to a couple more episodes to see how if it's lost a step or not. Like, because it is a
Okay,
weird to get readjusted to them not struggling to get like they're struggling with the business, but it's more business management struggles. It's not like, hey, we need to eat tomorrow. We are flat fucking broke like the first season
okay,
was.
alright. But still, I mean, still good, still
Oh
funny?
yeah, what's her
Okay.
name as the Aussie uh driver
Yeah,
or
I love her, I love
she's
her.
still MVP of, like, not, like, going she's gonna sell her car so they don't have to sell their worst employee, that's, like, absolutely the worst, person in the world, and she's, like like, her car gets stolen before she gets to sell it, and she finds it on a lot, like, a used car lot, and, like, "Oh, can I just have my car back?" Like, "Nope, uh, we don't buy or sell stolen cars, so if it's on the lot, it must not be stolen." And so she just gets in the car with the test driver or like and starts just to fucking go and is like, "So, have you ever loved it like so tell you something, Darren. Have you ever loved something? Have you ever loved something that thought you gave you freedom like this car gives to me? I'll tell you what, this feeling this car gives to me, I would die for it, Darren. Are you willing to die, Darren?" It's like, "Let me out." She's going to Craig Robinson, "Please stop her." Like, "Look, man, it's been a long day. I'm letting her do that on this one." Like, I don't have as much pull as you think I do in this situation. But yeah, very funny. Me and Les also watched The Equalizer 3. We went to the theaters.
Yeah, I've never seen any of the Equalizer movies.
Oh, really? Uh,
No,
First one's pretty fun, pretty good.
okay,
Second one, I can't remember. I feel like it's not as good as the first one, but the third one has the best action out of all 3. Like, the
okay,
action is
that's good.
brutal, really great fight scenes, but the story is weirdly amiss. Like,
Okay,
it just feels like it ends in its second act. Like, the villains aren't anyone. Like, at least in the second one, they had Pedro Pascal as a villain, and
right.
in the first one, they had, Madsen? Whatever. The guy that's basically plays any Eastern European dude in a villain, like,
Yeah, yeah, okay, yeah,
and it feels like they never, like Denzel's never in any danger in this movie. Like, not like
yeah.
he's in da like, it's not like he's in danger in the first two everywhere, but it feels like he could
Right,
get
but let's
hurt.
feel like maybe, yeah, right, yeah.
In this one, it's like, nope, never had a chance. Don't really. They're trying to sell that this is the last one of the series and that he's
Right.
settling down in this little town in Italy. Like, I found peace here. And that never really sells. It feels like he could drop and leave and then at the credits anyway. Dakota Fanning plays a Interpol agent, I think, or CIA agent. Interesting to see her because I was like, because Les was like, well, how do I know? Like, who do I think she is? You think she's Elle Fanning, Les? That's right. It's now gotten to the point with that like Dakota Fanning is getting confused with Elle Fanning. That's where their careers are at this point,
Yeah.
which is good for Elle Fanning, honestly.
Yeah, not so good for Dakota.
No. Yeah, I would say wait for that one to come to streaming, I think you're gonna unless you really like, and if you're I mean, then again, this is an action movie, you're there for the action, so
That's this yeah, honestly, this has been on my list to, like, when it got to streaming that I had, and it's been on, like, Stars or whatever,
mhm,
to, like, go ahead and watch the Equalizer trilogy because I like Man on Fire, which feels like it was a lead-in to Equalizer in a lot of ways. That was his, like, "Oh, I can do this kinda thing."
mhm. Oh, yeah, I guess it's a reunion
So
between Dakota Fanning and Denzel Washington
yeah,
on,
yeah.
Man on
So
Fire. But yeah, I would say that,
so yeah.
you know, watch the first one, Randy. If you like the first one, yeah, then maybe take a trip to the movies.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a plan. At some point, I'm gonna get to it.
Yeah.
Although probably not until Equalizer 3 is also on streaming.
Mhm. And
All
then I
right.
watched,
So
Hell of a Boss, which, had its latest episode drop, which was
okay.
also very unexpectedly dark considering, its comedy and gratuitous violence, but it has a
Right.
interesting subject matter and had a lot to say about the subject of love that I thought was pretty heartwarming.
Okay.
In regards to
Technology personality.
even the demon of lust is not immune to the love bug.
Give me a thrust. You show me some love. From the groin to the bust, in desire we trust in the house of Osmodia. Trumpet. Hello, imp, you came here to sing your serenade. Perform your feelings on a velvety stage.
Well, we got a saying that's popular in these pods.
Oh, you little bitches strum the strings of their hearts.
You wanna hang around this lustful town? Ditch the lovey-dovey before we knock you around. Here we sing about warmth and desire.
Depravity, savagery, loins hotter than fire.
So
Just a reminder, you can go over to patreon.com/tvdudes and throw us a buck an episode. In exchange, we get to keep with our streaming services, pay for our hosting costs, and you get bonus content each week. This week, Les and Nick are going to talk about propaganda, which I'm excited to listen to that discussion. It's one of those things, like, timing worked out weird this week. I was finally well. Les wasn't able to make a recording on the night, so that's why there's only two of us this week. But that means I didn't get to get on the Patreon, I'm curious to hear what y'all have to say on that. That'll be
It
fun.
was one of our longer ones, honestly. So
Let's jump over and have our main course, and let's talk about the Changeling on Apple Plus, which we alluded to in the beginning.
mhm.
But so to start off, this is like one of those. This is a novel, right? This was based on a novel
Is it?
that I think it is. I'm almost sure it was.
I mean, it does feel like it, I will
yes,
tell you.
it's the novelist is named Victor Laval, who I believe it's a horror novelist. He's done a bunch of stuff. He is actually the narrator of this. Like clearly
Okay.
he's good with this adaptation. But he does like literary horror, and I'm not a literary horror guy.
The pacing is
Because
definitely a different.
so this is I mean it has Lakeith Stanfield the lead, and I think that's your biggest thing. Like Lakeith Stanfield
Yeah.
is the selling point of all this. Um and it is a story. It looks like it starts as a story of two romances across a generation. There's one in the 1970s that is about Lakeith Stanfield's father and mother, which is a white parole officer and an African immigrant woman,
Mhm.
and they have this kid who they name Apollo because they go see Rocky on their first date.
Man, it could just be
And
I
then,
just watched a bunch of propaganda, but I was super sensitive to the parole officer, like, "Oh, yeah, I'm
yep,
this parole officer. I shouldn't be telling you this," but I'm like, "Well, then
yeah,
don't, you
yep.
fucking."
Then don't, yep. Well, they definitely set him up as kind of a scumbag. I feel like they sell him as kind of a scumbag.
Mhm.
Um, And then Lakeith Stanfield later on, he's a grown man. He has grown up basically without a father because his dad left when he was like 4, and he meets this girl, and he fucking stalks her. Like the Victor Laval in the narration even says he's like, yeah, you might call that stalking. I'm like, yeah, I
I
might,
mean, I
because he
think the
like
courts would, but
because the whole thing, and it's supposed to be cute,
well, I don't.
and I think this was the flaw for me. It's like it starts from this. It's
When
like
does the transition from the relationship? When does it like? It feels like the show thinks it's cute the whole time, and really it was
Yeah,
creepy at
and
first,
it's
and
not.
then it gets cute. Like, because she's like she just straight up says no, and then we kind of skip over how he like wins her heart.
How long he goes in every day and asks her out again. And here's the thing, that is also the echo of what happened with his dad and his mom.
Yeah,
And I'm like, you think this is cute? And I was glad the narration at least called it out for like stalking. I'm like, okay, so you recognize this is wrong, but you still think it's cute. And so that's kind of a problem because it starts from that. But once you get past that, I'm like, okay, sure,
the
it's
relationship
fiction.
is cute once you forget how it started.
Yeah. Well, it's cute for a while.
Yeah.
And then they have kids, they have a baby, and then she goes fucking insane. And it's like they're definitely touching on like, is this postpartum depression? But something else is going on. There is actually like magic or something
Well,
going on.
she went on
But it's all
a fucking what do you call it? Like her journey of self-discovery through like
yeah,
the Amazon or
so yeah,
and
yeah, and a witchy woman gave her 3 witches.
yeah.
Yeah,
And so
gave her 3
you
wishes. Yeah,
feel like there's some sort of monkey's paw thing going or some supernatural element
yeah,
that is
yeah.
like what was the cost of her her new life and her baby and whatnot.
Right. And I guess the thing is like I think this is raising interesting questions. And it's very clear to me that the changeling thing is real. Like the baby so to spoil something that happens, I can't remember if this is the first episode or second episode. The baby dies.
That's the second one, I think.
Is that okay? So you didn't get to
No.
this. So I watched the second episode. After watching the first episode,
Well,
I was
honestly,
like, "That's
for
dark."
whatever reason, I thought the baby was gonna when it was born in the subway tunnel. I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, that
Yeah,
baby's gonna come out dead." And
yeah.
so I was
No, it's
shocked when it came out alive. But you're saying it just dies later.
and it no, it doesn't just die. She kills it.
Oh my god!
Yeah, they definitely jump around a little bit in time, and they cut to this bit where it's like she's been having postpartum depression stuff, and she's gone and seen this other strange woman. She's acting really strange. She's saying things like, "That's not a baby." We cut to basically him in their apartment. He's got a bike lock around his neck and chains around him, so he's like chained to a pole, and he's like begging her not to kill the baby, and the baby's crying, and she's heating up a teapot of boiling water,
Oh,
and she picks up a hammer and knocks him unconscious with it, and then goes in, and it cuts like a news report, and like then he goes to like they kind of get in time, and basically she killed the baby and disappeared. And then he went a little nuts and brought a shotgun into the library where she used to work looking for her, and he got arrested and sent to jail. And there's this whole thing of like they're sort of famous for having this fucked up dead baby situation.
uh-huh.
And he starts going to support groups and all this kind of thing. And then we start to see that he is running into another woman who also has a baby who she's saying is not her baby, and that maybe there's like this weird like it is a changeling, like somebody replaced their baby, and that the only way to get the baby the real baby back was to kill the changeling, and it's fucked up and weird, and it's taking 3 episodes with no answers,
Yeah.
and like it's undeniably well written and well acted. Like Keith Stanfield's amazing, but it's so goddamn dark
I think
that I'm at the point 3 episodes in of like I don't care what the answers are. You guys have lost me.
well, it's dark and sad and kind of boring
Yeah,
even before I get to the dead baby part.
yeah. And I mean, I thought the dead baby one I know he liked child murder.
I
So
honestly might have laughed at. I don't know how they play it. Honestly, you saying it is darker than like if I were to watch it, I'd probably be here going, "Yeah, that was amazing." But I think it's a combination of the novel esqueness of it with the narration and just modern television pacing of why are we taking like why do we take 8 episodes to tell 5 episodes worth of story?
yes,
Uh
yes, for sure.
like I can't help but feel like is that like just the there's
It
scenes in
goes
here that
back.
are like, is this necessary or are we treading water? Do we really need the how many like flashbacks with the his parents,
Right,
or do we
right.
or do two would two do it when you have four? Like,
And that's the thing. I think that that is the case, and I think that that is the novelistic version of it. Thing that's the they're doing sort of like the novel storytelling. So like it is all about deepening these characters and telling you a story. And I'm like, I get that, but your story isn't interesting enough to me. Your characters are well developed, and that's true. But I don't care about what's happening. Like get to the changeling shit already. Like
mhm.
tell me what's happening a little earlier, and you can hook me in. But this,
I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like it feels like Mrs. Davis with the amount of answers. I'm like, oh, so I'm gonna have to wait so long, and then I'm gonna say even
yeah,
Mrs. Davis was more fun than this.
more Mrs. Davis was more fun. I liked Mrs. Davis. I know you didn't, but
But it's the same type of like we're gonna hide the ball storytelling.
I'm not going back to this. I won't finish this. Like
Nah,
it's just not for me. I'm not sure who it is for. Uh, book readers, I guess. I don't know.
I don't know.
Book
The
readers
people
just read
that
the book.
people are looking for a new Lost, like a darker Lost. I think.
But this is even. I mean, this is even as ambitious as Lost. It has one. Lost had like all kinds of crazy shit.
Oh sure.
This has one conceit that there are changelings, and it's not. I mean, I compare it to like you remember that HBO show was it called The Other or The Outsider? The Outsider that was like that with Jason Bateman, I think.
Oh yeah.
That was like the good version of this, because
Mhm.
that was very compelling, and it had the one
Jason
central.
Bateman. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was the
yeah,
shapeshifter because he was on. Yes, I remember. I
yeah,
don't
and
remember
that
what it's called.
so it was called The Outsider,
The
I'm almost
Outsider.
sure. And so that was like that was what this is trying to do, where it's like trying to be very grounded and real, but there was a supernatural element.
That's kind of neat.
This is not quite working the same way, and I think there's some storytelling
Well,
difficulties
there's
with
a
it.
little. There's a. It's not quite played as realistic because there's a little bit of a. Even the opening is a weird. I'm not sure how they shot it, but it's like a uh sepia
Yeah,
fucking
it's
filtered boat
yeah,
that guy came over, and I was like, I
yeah.
don't know what that has to do with anything. I guess I don't care.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, that was weird. I don't I'd forgotten all about that. I think, there's that novel genre, magical realism, and I think this is kind of in that vein, which I'm not a huge fan of. So, yeah, it's just wasn't for me. It's well done, well acted, good cast,
Mhm.
definitely
Feel like
expensive.
you could the it's the narrator's trying to tell me a story, and it's basically like Lakeith Stanfield's character Apollo saying, "I am Apollo,
Yeah.
god of the sun," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Bitch,
Yeah.
your parents named you after that Rocky movie. Everyone knows it.
Yep.
They
Yep.
didn't name
Yep.
you after the god. They named you after the Rocky movie.
For sure. Yeah.
So don't pretend it's this big like I have a destiny or something.
All right, let's jump over and talk about Star Trek Lower Decks season 4,
Please do. Yes,
3.
it's season 4
Okay. I have definitely come around on Lower Decks. I
because
liked
season
it, but I
2
didn't.
they introduced the lower decks of other shows,
Right,
and they
right.
introduced the Vulcan
Yeah. Pilar?
Tavana,
Savannah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I think it's no Dr. Tavana. Talin.
Okay,
It's
yeah, yeah,
Talin that's the Vulcan
yeah,
chick. And then season 3 they went through all of it and I'm like, "Where is the Vulcan chick?"
yeah, yeah. She's here. She's here
And
now,
now
Nick.
she's here and I love her.
Yeah, she and Tendi are great together.
Yes.
I I really enjoyed these 2 episodes back. The Voyager stuff, like I say, actually made me watch Voyager the first time. But the obsessed museum curator who's just like, "Don't touch anything,"
Mhm.
and then the rapid fire weird shit that happens on Voyager was
Oh,
all just delightful.
wow, that like I love that they open up a panel and it's like,
Mhm.
"Oh shit, a macrovirus."
Yeah, yep. Also, I know of Tuvix because of memes online,
Mhm.
and I know that Tuvix is a controversial episode because basically Janeway murders a sentient being.
Yeah, well, they even play with it in this episode of like, what's the right thing to do? And even Tendy's like,
Yep.
at the end of it, when they have a amorphous blob of,
She's like, "Yeah, I'm good with it now."
yeah, never mind.
Which I think is funny. They basically shored up, they're like, "No, Janeway was right, because if it keeps going, this is what happens." I'm like, "That's you know what?
Sure.
That's true." You're like, "Yeah, them merging all the people into 2 boxes was hilarious."
Yeah, it was. It starts with the head engineer and Dr.
Yep.
Ta'ana.
Yeah, Paul Shear's character and the bird
Billups.
lady, right?
Billups.
No, Billups, right? Billups
and Ta'ana, so it was Tillips or Tulips.
Yeah. And then they merged the bird scientist and the
Freeman,
captain.
yeah.
Yeah.
And she
that
got like weirdly horny. I was like, what's going on?
Yeah. This was super fun. I also really like that they're not just goofing on this. Like they have story arcs for all these guys. So like Connie Newsom's character, Mariner and the first officer, Ransom. Like their whole dynamic of she's like, I'm gonna make you admit you don't want me to do this. And he's like, no, you just sabotage yourself, and I'm trying not to let you do it.
Yeah,
like that was a great runner, and I really liked it.
Well, because Ransom's kind of dumb, but he's not. He knows that like that there's a reason. Like you get yourself demoted. I don't know why. Like, well, he thinks he knows why, and not really. But I know that you're just baiting me. And even Mariner is like what? No, I don't. I'm like, Mariner. We've all seen 3 seasons of the show.
She doesn't even know what she's doing.
Like, like everyone on this ship can tell you that you don't want to get promoted, and it's pathological that you you are. The minute you might get up for a promotion, you'll find a way to fuck yourself out of it.
Yep.
But so by the end of it, though, that they're all, what do you call it? Promoted.
They're lieutenant. Yeah, they're lieutenants.
Lieutenant, first or lower class or whatever.
Yeah.
And so even the show realizes they have to struggle with like, so we're not going to be lower decks anymore. We're not going to be in the bunks. And it's like,
right.
We're still like the lowest officers. We just have like the grunts answer to like the lowest grunts answer to us, and that's about it.
Yeah. And then the second episode, they do the menagerie thing, which I love when they take a Star Trek trope and they're like, yeah, it's a menagerie.
Yeah, it's a menage.
Yeah, we see a lot of these. And then there's the Moopsie, the bone-eating, terrifying Moopsie.
No, Randy, the bone-drinking monster.
Bone-drinking Moopsie. You're right. Yeah, drinks booze.
Moopsie.
Oh, the Moopsie is free!
Oh no, your cuddliest prisoner is loose. Whatever shall we do?
You don't understand! Everything here is incredibly dangerous!
Moopsie.
Can't be worse than the swamp gobblers. Of course it's worse! They only gobble you. The Moopsie drinks your bones!
How does something drink bones? Holy f***!
Run! Run for your lives!
Moopsie.
I don't know why, but that's way worse.
It is worse.
Oh my god. And I was like, oh, the cutest exhibit got out. I'm like, have you not watched one episode of Star Trek? This is triple level, motherfucker.
Yeah. That was a delight.
A bunch of cameos in the menagerie of like shit from like there's the Unisnake that was around, the earwigs from Wrath of Khan were there. Even stuff from Lower Decks has enough seasons where they are referencing themselves of shit that they've discovered, like the Sky Snake. And shit like that, which I was like, shit, you're a legit Star Trek show to where you're like next to the other references, you're referencing yourself. But yeah, Tendi having a new relationship with another, what do you call it, science officer? Or they're in science officer training is great, especially since they've given her own Spock, which is fantastic. And Rutherford and Boimler are now roommates, which I think is a great
what a great reveal too. He's like, oh, we'll just darken the filters.
Well, I love that because that brought that up to me, because I always low-key wondered, I'm like, well, there's definitely rooms on the lower part of the ship, right?
Yeah,
but the lower part's near the engine, and like the engine, like it's the Sign episode of Seinfeld where
that's exactly what I thought of. Yes, that is exactly what I thought of.
It was where my mind immediately went of like, oh my god, what is like?
It was so where my mind went that I thought they were going to reference it, but they didn't. And I'm like,
no.
Do you guys not know about that? Like I wanted the bit where Boimler comes out and he does like the stressed out Kramer voice and everything. I would have loved that because it felt like a reference.
Well, I'm stressed.
Oh, I'm stressed. Yeah.
Maybe the writer's room is now young enough to where they don't
They
understand
didn't
that
know.
reference.
I think it's possible because like, both you and I went right there.
Yeah.
But they didn't reference it at all.
But that's I mean, red light in a room that is driving you crazy. That's the
Yeah.
media. Like
That's a Seinfeld
it's
bit.
iconic,
Yeah.
iconic, man.
Yeah. And it even it's been memed. Like
Yes.
recently they did
Recently it
the
has
meme
memes,
of like
yes.
Kramer, what's going on in there?
Yeah.
Like I would have thought there'd been a reference to it. I wanted something where like, where someone was like, hey Boimler, what's going on in there?
Oh man, I got to make my own meme version of it now, and like,
Yeah.
that's like, what Kramer, what's going on in there? Lower Decks is referencing us without giving us any credit.
Yeah. Yeah. I was surprised there wasn't more of a direct reference, but I'm glad I'm not the only one right to that spot because that's what I thought too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
Also smart, I think, to focus on the core cast. Like,
Yes.
these 2 episodes were very heavily focused on the main 4, which
Yeah.
I think is smart.
Yeah.
Because we'll be talking, like, if you want to talk about Harley Quinn and desserts, we'll be talking about how, like, is Harley Quinn about Harley Quinn anymore?
Right. And it's definitely not. Yeah. Yeah. So the other thing I think is, what do you think is going on with the ship that's going around killing everybody?
So that's interesting, and I think it's definitely a great place to leave on a cliffhanger as well,
Yeah.
because uh, I love this idea that all Star Trek, it doesn't matter how silly or serious it is, what they're doing is inherently dangerous,
Yeah. Yeah.
and could go wrong at any moment. And
Right.
they go with the Klingon lower deckers we saw before. I'm like, oh shit, we've only seen them for 1 episode, but I know who those guys are.
Yeah.
So it felt
They
like,
they definitely had some fun with it. Like we get to see what Klingon lower decks is. We get the whole Romulan gag of like they're
oh,
all scheming all the time. Like it's funny as hell, and then they just blow them up.
well, yeah, and it's interesting. It's like the ship is sucking power. Like the
Yeah.
weapon systems go offline, and then the shields,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh, so it's like it's definitely even a some sort of technology they haven't really seen before. And I didn't recognize
Yeah.
the ship. I mean, I'm not
I don't either. I didn't either. So there's something, but we know lower decks. We know it's gonna be some reference to something.
right. It's gonna be real. Like it's got to be either really. I don't know. It would actually be interesting if they faced a real threat. They'd be the
Yeah.
first, because most of the time it's been like the Packlids or
Right.
like.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
a threat, but also it's a threat that you can believe the lower decks crew can just take care of, rather than
It's a
calling
threat
in
that the Enterprise crew would take care of in the cold open.
in the
Yeah.
cold open. Yeah, like
Like, yeah, Captain's log, the Apocalypse tried to accuse us of conspiracy, and of course we figured that out in about 5 minutes.
yeah, they're kind of morons. We don't really
They're kind of morons.
we don't know who would have that much trouble with these guys. Freeman's just in the corner. Hey, fuck you.
Yeah. I'm a captain too. Anyway. Yeah, I don't know where they're going, but yeah, I'm interested in finding out. All right, yeah, let's talk Harley Quinn.
Is that our only dessert for this week?
That's our only dessert. We're man,
Shit.
everything ended. Everything's ending.
Mm-hmm. I suppose I can ask you what your thoughts on my Adventure of Superman's finale, since we didn't get your.
Yeah, y'all talked about last week. We can just talk about Harley Quinn. It's
Okay.
all right. But yeah, so what was this week's episode? It's all kind of blurred for me.
This week's episode was the potato clone.
Right. And did they flat out reveal or just imply that she is the one who killed Nightwing?
They reveal it, yeah. That Harley
Okay, that's what I
Quinn
thought.
herself,
Oh.
not the potato clone, but her as a sleepwalking. Because remember they
No, I don't think that's what happened. I think that was bullshit. Because remember that we don't actually see with like it's from a point of view that like Dr. Psycho shows it to her or something like that. I think the potato clone did it. I think that was the potato clone, and she was trying to frame Harley for it.
Okay. I guess the
I think
potato
that's
clone
gonna-
was made in that episode, I think.
I think that's going to be the reveal. I could be wrong.
Okay.
But I think that's going to be the reveal because I don't think that Harley Quinn killed him. I think the potato clone Harley did it, and that she was trying to frame Harley for it.
Honestly, I hope not.
Yeah?
Well, one, me and Les have been going back and forth on this season as far as, does this feel like weird to you? The fact that they seem to be really interested in the poison ivy element of this relationship, and Harley being a hero has taken a drastic backseat.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they didn't know what to do with that storyline at all.
It is a funny thing. I mean, honestly, Poison Ivy running Legion of Doom is a more interesting story. It just
Well,
is.
I mean, it's more, but they're not even trying. Like, there's no Bat Family anymore.
Yeah. I almost wonder. I wonder if what they should have done is have Harley booted out of the Bat Family early on for killing Professor Pig. That should have been it. And then she has to go be like Poison Ivy's sidekick, and how much she would hate that.
Well, honestly, it feels like it. I'm wondering. It seems like it's the same writers because the last season tee up to the I'm going to be try and be a good guy, and you're going to try and run the Legion of Doom, and that's what the next season's going to be about. And
Right.
the conflict of that they're in. And I'm like, well, cool, but commit to that. Like, have her like, because there's some lip service to them trying to work together. Once like Nightwing gets killed, it's like over.
Yeah.
And between the going to the future episode and the Bane and Mr. Freeze's wife, Nora Freeze's episode, we spent like 2 episodes in a row not with like the fulfilling either side of it of Poison Ivy running the Legion of Doom or Harley being a good guy and that the struggles that come with. It's not. It's a comedy. I don't.
Yeah.
It's still funny, and I still think it's like the show is great and very well written. But this is what I think makes it the difference between the first 3 seasons and this season is that the balance of it and the writing aspect of the actual plotting and storytelling seems to be a little rushed or misbalanced.
Yeah, I get. I mean,
And
it's still really good
to the point
it's still
where
really good and really funny.
They a lot of the heroing has now canonly been done by a potato clone for Harley.
Yes.
A lot of her character arc hasn't been done by her, but by a potato clone. And I feel like the potato clone, I'm going to say it just feels lazy to me. I think it's like
okay, that's fair.
I think it's a funny joke, and I think it's funny to have 2 of them for a minute. But that in the episode, it's a good decision. But I think with this season overall, I feel like has been like some of these decisions feel kind of lazy. Like you didn't want to actually put the work in on the hero storyline element of this.
Yeah, I guess I would rather. I don't want her to have murdered Nightwing. I think that's where I'm okay on the potato clone. I'm like, I don't want
Nightwing to be murdered. Honestly,
yeah, that's where I'm at too. I also don't want Nightwing to be dead.
That feels weirdly dark. That in a way that you can't take back, and like they're making light of it in a way that feels like you can make light of the villain's death, and that doesn't really People care about Nightwing and Robin and Batgirl, and they just casually do the killing joke at the end of this. And it is not a gag, it's just kind of dark and weird, honestly. Watching Barbara Gordon try and work out a wheelchair in the next episode I don't know how much comedy you're going to mine from that.
Yeah, that's freaking dark, man.
Look, it could just be my reverence for these characters that's fucking me up on it. But I never liked the ramifications of the killing joke going forward, and I hate it every time it shows up anyway. Of like, Jesus Christ, we don't have to cripple Batgirl.
So here's the thing. I think it's a bold choice to do it because again, I think a killing joke has aged poorly for almost everyone.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone thinks, even people who like, oh, Alan Moore's the best. I think everyone's like, there was no need to do that, and it's kind of gross. And maybe it's just the friends I have, but I feel like that's like the standard now. It's like, yeah, that's kind of gross, man. So for them to go there, I'm just like, they must have something in mind. Like this is a feminist show.
Like honestly, well, that's what I was at 3 episodes ago of like, I didn't want to bring up these complaints because I feel like they had something in mind of like, but now we have like what 1-2 episodes left.
Yeah.
And I'm like, they don't have enough time to pull all this off in a satisfying way for me anyway.
Yeah. We'll see. I've still really liked the season. I do think the writing is still really strong, even if I question some of the choices. And but yeah, I'll be curious to see what the finale is.
Well, also, where is Batman? Like, I mean, he's in prison.
No, he's in jail. He's in
prison, but we were promised that like Harley Quinn will keep up with a or like video Skype calls therapy sessions. And I was like, oh, what a great way to have the Batman character pop in for a minute on each episode and give his, funny Batman like, but you're not doing it the right way, blah. Like, and no, we haven't seen him at all. Other than he DJ'd Clayface's thing for a minute. Like, and there's stuff that in this season that I feel like lasts, like, did a writing decision change? Did you lose interest in some of these storylines you so clearly set up in the previous season?
Right.
Because it feels like no one wanted Harley to be a hero at all.
Yeah.
I haven't really felt her struggle that much in like 5 episodes of for being a hero. Most of it has been the
Yeah.
Nightwing murder ever since that like the problem with the Nightwing murder is that it so puts focus onto that mystery rather than
It does. Yes. And I think that may have been the biggest mistake they made.
yeah, I think and a lot of this would be fixed by just not killing Nightwing, I think. But
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was a weird call. I mean, when they did it, I appreciated the boldness of like, holy shit, they just killed Nightwing.
yeah.
But it's one of those things like, oh, if you don't have anywhere to go from there, you shouldn't do it.
Mhm. Which
Yeah.
and now I feel like they're going to do it again with Batgirl.
Yeah. We'll see what happens.
And
Yeah.
but I do like that we're getting more King Shark and Bane.
Yeah.
But even though it seems like they put them all into one episode filler rather than sprinkling them out. Also, like the I think Lex Luthor slowly turning more Falcon is pretty.
That
funny.
is pretty funny. Yeah, that is pretty funny.
I'm trying to think of what else
Yeah.
happened because I've just been dogging on this episode. I kind of want to like, but it's a funny episode. I'm trying to remember like
Yeah.
the actual comedy of it. I mean, Lex Luthor just burning out the sun as a petty bitch because it's like those who use the sun. We all
Yeah.
use the sun.
We
you
all use
psycho.
the sun. Yeah.
Oh, right. And then Harley has to go to the golf course and secure
It just accidentally kills the guy
twice because they rewind the time and Harley had the chance to like, call her and not, I'm like, oh, she's going to call her and help it. Nope.
Yep. I also love the Flash as just like a dork who's like,
Yes.
they're like, hey, do you mind time traveling as a joke? And he's like, yeah, that's hilarious.
It's hilarious. I love that Batgirl comes up like, oh, I don't understand. Like, I don't really understand his comedy. I just get nervous and laugh.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course they bring it. He's got the backpack on. It's the cosmic treadmill. And I'm like, yeah. All right.
Yeah. That was pretty fun.
No, overall, I think still episode to episode, the moment to moment stuff, very funny and satisfying. I just think overall structure wise,
The story. Yeah.
this season feels weird.
Yeah. I agree with that. I think you're not wrong. I do think that killing off Nightwing was a bold choice that maybe wasn't the right choice.
I kind of felt it at the time, but I wanted to give it time to
Yeah.
breathe. I'm like, I feel like this is a mistake, but I'll give you some.
Well, I mean, they've earned our trust at this point, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah. I think that'll do it for us this week.
Indeed.
Thank you, Nick.
Thanks, Randy.
Thank you to our listeners. Thank you to our patrons. Reminder, you can go to patreon.com/TVDudes, throw us that buck an episode. Listen to Nick and Les talk about propaganda and listen to us talk about movies and all kinds of stuff. Hours and hours and days of content, honestly. And until next time,
TV Dudes out.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast out of Austin, Texas. We are exclusively listener supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/TVDudes.
You can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is done by our friend and original TV Dude Gregory J. Amani Smith.
To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com. I'm Randy Lander.
I'm Les Weiler.
And I'm Kyle Scott.
Thanks for listening.